When starting up EAFC, the most important thing you guys can do is decide your controller and camera settings. This is really important because it's going to set you up for the entire year. If you start the year off using really bad settings, then when you try to change them throughout the year, you're going to find it difficult to adapt because you're already used to the other things. So it's better to get these correct now so you don't have to do any adjustments later on in the year. And with all that aside, guys, let's get started. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Okay then guys, so we're going to get started off with the camera settings. So for the actual camera you guys want to use, there's a couple of good options, I would say. So I personally like to use the co-op camera. Now the reason I like the co-op camera so much is because it gives you the best view of the pitch and all of the players on it. You get a clear view of everybody that is about on your team and the other team, so it's very clear to see what is going on. Now a lot of people like to look at the radar, so this isn't necessary, but for somebody like me that's a little bit lazy at looking at things like radars, this is really useful because it allows me to see everything and make, specific plays based on that. I personally wouldn't be able to do this if I was using a more zoomed in camera, which is why I like co-op so much. Now, if you don't like co-op because it's a little bit too far out for you, the other one I would suggest is tele broadcast. Now, tele broadcast is actually a really great camera. I have used it many times before. What's good about tele broadcast is it feels a lot more precise than co-op. The thing that you're lacking though is the clear view of everybody on the pitch. So it's a bit of a trade-off really. You might have better control over your players, it might feel a little bit better on tele broadcast, but I think it's much easier to see with co-op, and for that reason I prefer it. But honestly, pick whichever one you guys prefer. Now moving on to the actual custom camera settings. For the custom settings, I like to have my height on 15 for co-op, and the reason for this is it's nice and high up so we can see a lot of things on the pitch. We're not going to have our view obstructed because the camera is too low down and players are being blocked off and all that kind of stuff. So I like to have 15 as it is a really nice decent height. I don't like to go all the way at 20 because I think it's a bit too much. And then for the zoom, I like to have this on 5 because I don't want it to be too zoomed out to the point where each player is like a pixel on the screen, and I also don't want it zoomed in too far because then it kind of defeats the point of using the co-op camera. So I like to have this on 5 so it's zoomed out but not too zoomed out. For the other camera settings, it's completely up to you whether you guys want far side focus on. It'll zoom in depending on where you are on the pitch. The same with the penalty area. I don't like the camera making any adjustments wherever I am on the pitch, so I have these on 0. The other setting you guys have to look at is the power shot zoom. Basically, whenever you're doing a power shot, if you have this setting on, it will do like that zoom in camera. Some people like it, some don't. I actually quite like it because I find it to be really satisfying, and when my opponent goes for a power shot, because the camera will zoom in, I know exactly what he's doing. I might not pick up on that if I had this off. Now for the more important stuff, the controller settings, the first thing you guys should do is put this preset onto competitive. Now the reason you want this on competitive is because whenever you're playing an online game of FIFA or EAFC, I'm still not used to calling it that, it will automatically have this on. So it's worth just putting it on in the settings because then you're always using this. You're not going to get used to something like assisted headers when you cannot use it online. So I suggest having this on competitive as you're going to have to use it anyway in a lot of situations. For the shot assistance, guys, you have a couple of options here. We have assisted, which is what a lot of people will be using. Basically, you get heavy assistance. All you have to do is shoot and it will go at the goal. You don't really have to worry about aiming and all the stuff like that. Obviously, you can kind of aim, but not really. And the other one, which a lot of people want to use, is precision. Now, I use precision quite a bit in the beta. Basically what this is if you guys are used to like using power shots, it's kind of like a semi-assisted shot. So if you aim at the goal, that is enough. You don't have to aim in a specific area like you do with manual, but as long as you're aiming it at the goal, you're going to get more accurate shots and faster ball speed. So if you can get good with precision, you're actually going to have better shooting than those with assisted. Now, I really liked this precision shooting when I was in like one-on-one situations options on the beta, but the problem I had with it was when you have those tighter angles, like you're running at an angle, it's much more difficult and near impossible to actually get this shot on target. So I really don't think it's worth the hassle at this point, which is why I'm just keeping this on assisted, but you guys can try this out if you like. I don't think manual is a good idea, however. Now moving on to timed finishing, guys, I like to have this on because I like to time my shots. If you're able to time your shots, it's definitely worth having this on because you can increase the power and the accuracy of the shots just by using timed finishing. So if you're able to use it, it's worth using. If you're not sure how to use it or you're not very good at using it, it probably might be better to turn it off because you can actually harm the effectiveness of your shots if you like red time them or something like that. So unless you're good with timed finishing, maybe just have it off. Now moving on to through pass assistance, guys, you have two options, semi or manual. Manual's pretty much a no-go because it just makes your life way too difficult, so it's better to just have this on semi, as you still have quite a lot of control over the passes. It just helps you out a little bit, so it is worth having this on semi as opposed to manual. The same for lobbed through passes, it's basically the exact same thing, so we have this on semi. For ground pass assistance, guys, we have this on assisted because there's no point in making your life harder than it needs to be. You can have this on semi if you want, but I really do not suggest it. It's best to just go ahead and use assisted. The same with crossing. I find it to be much more accurate and powerful and have more of a whip when you have this on assisted as opposed to something like semi. This one is down to preference. If you want to have this on semi, that is okay, but I prefer to have this on assisted. For lobbed pass, again, I have this on assisted because it's just much easier. It seems to be okay. It seems to pick the right passes, but if you want a bit more control, you can have this on semi, but it is up to you. For the pass receiver lock, guys, I have this on late because it gives you as much time as possible to change your decision if you need to. If you have it locked at the animation start, you cannot change the pass receiver after the animation has started. So I like to have this on late so you can change it as late as possible and it gives you the most freedom. For precision pass sensitivity, guys, I just have this on normal. You know, you can have this on high if you want, but I don't really see the point at the moment. I'm just using this on normal because it seems to be fine for me. For clearance assistance, I have this on directional just because it gives me the best control. When you use directional clearance assistance, basically whenever you press circle, it all depends on which way you're pointing the left analog stick. So if you're pointing it to the right, it will kick it to the right. You know, it just gives you a bit more control, but you can have this on classic if you want. For the defending, there is a new setting here. There are two settings: tactical defending, which is the one that we've been used to for many years now. Basically, if you're on the PlayStation, it would be circle to do a standing tackle and square to do a slide tackle, and on Xbox it would be B and X. So B to do a standing tackle, X to do a slide tackle. What this new advanced defending does is it gives you an extra command. So if you press X if you're on the PlayStation, or if you press A if you're on the Xbox, you will have like an option to do a shoulder challenge. So basically you can barge your opponent. So you have circle for stand tackle, square for slide tackle, and then you have this extra option to barge your opponent with X. So I'm trying this out because it seems to be useful and it gives you more variety. For pass block assistance, this one is non-negotiable. You want to have this on. Your players just won't block anything if you don't have this on because, you know, it's just stupid like that. Definitely have this one on. It's very important in my opinion. For auto switching, guys, cannot suggest enough on air balls and loose balls. Basically, whenever your opponent will cross the ball, it will automatically switch to the player which is closest, which is really useful because it's too difficult to manually switch when somebody is playing in a fast-paced cross. It's best to let it do that for you. And the same with loose balls. If the ball is loose, the player nearest will lock onto it and go and get it. But other than that, you are completely in control of your player switching, which is why it is the best. I do not suggest automatic as it is way too random and you often don't pick the correct players. For auto switch and move assistance, I like to have this on none. This is because it gives me the best control of the player the moment I switch to them. So if you have this on high assistance, when you switch to the player will continue moving in the way that they were moving before you switch to them for quite a long period of time. So I like to have this on none, so when I switch to the player I immediately have control of them. For right stick switching, very important to have this on classic because adaptive is just terrible, and player rotation is a little bit weird. So just use classic. It's the best way. It's perfect. You don't need anything else. It is the most consistent way to player switch. For right stick switching reference, you can use ball relative if you're used to that, or you can use player relative. I like to use player relative because it's a lot easier, and the player switch is based on the players as opposed to the ball, which makes it 10 times easier. We also have the right stick switching sensitivity on 10. I've tried this on many different settings. If you have this setting low, it is genuinely impossible to switch to the correct player, I've found. If you have this on 10, you just have way more control. If you guys want to lower it a little bit, that's fine, but honestly, when I was using this on a lower setting, it was genuinely impossible to switch to the players I want. But when I have this on 10, I have complete control, and it switches to the right player most times. For next player switching, we just have this on classic. Player lock, we have this on. It's a nice option. Icon switching, we turn this off because it is useless. Orbit dribbling, again, it's a nice option to have on, so we leave it on. And then goalkeeper doesn't matter, obviously. And then make sure analog sprint is off. Trigger effects and vibration I also have off. Make sure you have analog sprint off because you're basically handicapping yourself if you have it on. But yeah, guys, they are my camera settings and controller settings for EAFC. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, please be sure to drop this video a thumbs up, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.